Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie and discuss it every week, just like a book club. On today's show, we're covering the third fantasy epic, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2003, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King was directed by Peter Jackson and stars Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, and Viggo Mortensen. Gandalf and Aragorn lead the world of men against Sauron's army to draw his gaze from Frodo and Sam as they approach Mount Doom with the One Ring. It is ranked 6 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 15 on its Top 250. The film won 11 Oscars for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Mixing, Best Original Song, Best Original Score, Best Makeup, Best Costume Design, Best Art Direction, Best Film Editing, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture. It is the only movie in Academy Awards history to win every single award that it was nominated for. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for this film. As always, we're going to spoil everything that happens in the movie. So if you don't want to know anything, watch the movie and then come back. But stay tuned to find out what movie we're covering at the end of the show, because we're finally getting out of Middle-earth next week and into some classic Hollywood fare. Alrighty, and here we are with the final film in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And once again, before we dive into the thing, I want to say that I am still kind of getting over being sick. So my voice will kind of be not that good just for this video. I apologize, but I still wanted to make it for you guys because this movie deserves to be talked about. But obviously, Kevin, you had picked the trilogy, and it's been quite the journey from you, from going from someone who would joke around about these movies to has been enjoying at least the last two films. So what were your expectations going into the third one?
My expectations going into this would be, how were they going to wrap it up in a nice tiny bow for me to make me feel like this trilogy is, I think you said it, one of the best trilogies that you have seen, correct?
It's up there, definitely.
Yeah. So I wanted to see how they can incorporate that into this final film. And it being 3 hours and 30 minutes, 3 hours and 20 minutes, it gave itself enough time to leave no plot holes in there. So that's what I was wondering, if there was going to be any plot holes, or do I actually think that this is the best trilogy of trilogies, pretty much.
All right. Well, diving into it. There's no surprise. I have reviewed this movie already on the channel. I did it with Adrian, like the other two, on the Drive Back podcast. And I've really, not been quiet about it. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. If I had a top 5, it's in my top 5. This is such a good movie. It is the kind of culmination of the entire story and all these side characters so far. And it's really just, it's something special.
It is something special. I mean, me watching it for the first time, these last two I was watching for the first time, but watching this, I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy it. And like you said, this is great. This is possibly a masterpiece, something that I could watch over and over again. I want to see, I know we watched the theatrical version, but there is an extended version, correct?
It is. There is, yeah. All three of them have extended versions.
Yeah, so I would like to see what they implied on this, and what did they leave out. I would like to see in my studies if I want to rewatch it again. But just everything, like I said, I wanted it to be wrapped up in a small little bow, and it did. And like you were saying about the side characters, they get their time to shine, but it never stirs away from the main purpose or the main arc in this movie. But they still get their little moments here and there, and you're like, oh, that was so satisfying, and they needed that. Oh, that's what happens here, and everything. And yeah, it's just a perfect way to end a fantastic trilogy, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is. I'm just gonna keep saying the same thing over and over. It is incredible. Like, it is such an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
This film, in the that it manages to wrap up this epic story, but then also, you know, retain those intimate moments and the character moments in something with such a grand scale, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, the Battle of Pelennor Fields makes Helm's Deep look like a duel.
Yeah, it does. I was so excited because I knew that there was another fight in this franchise, but you could see the scale of this this battle compared to it's Helm's Deep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to Helm's Deep, and there's so much more consequences in this one as well. And it's just, it looks so damn good. This movie looks so damn good. And I like how some movies, I don't like how they ping pong between people. It kind of gets me confused. They do a perfect ping pong in this movie, because when it goes from a certain character like Frodo and Sam to Gandalf and who's the one that's the servant? Is it Mary? The servant to the
Oh yeah, Mary. He becomes like the
squire or whatever,
the steward's ward or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never get lost, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. When it ping ponged back to Frodo and Sam and Gollum, you were like, okay, I know exactly where they are and I know exactly where they left off. So it doesn't give you that, oh, that was a kind of why did they cut to this part of the movie and why did they cut to these people? It's okay, now we're going back to them to see what they're going to do for the fight or the battle, and then okay, we got to check up with Sam and see how he's doing when Frodo leaves him and stuff. And I wanted to ask, how do you watch the spider scene?
Through fingers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the spider, I'm like, he doesn't watch this scene, I feel like.
Yeah, it's not easy to watch.
Okay.
But it's something that I can still appreciate because of
how
the
good
visual
it looks.
effects, but also what it means for Sam as a character later on. The hardest part is watching it spin up.
Yeah,
Frodo. That's very disgusting.
Frodo.
I will say I prefer the representation of Shelob in the video game, Shadow of Mordor. Not Shadow of Mordor. Oh my gosh, it's not Shadow of Mordor. This is gonna drive me nuts. Shadow of War. Yeah, Shadow of War. Which they have her as the spider, but then she also has like a human form that she takes, or like almost like an elven form, kind of. And I really like that because she actually like speaks and she's like a manipulator and stuff. So like I really enjoyed that. And this one, she's just kind of a creature, which I mean, it's what you got to do for the movie. But yeah, I really enjoy the sequence, even though I have to watch it through fingers.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a cool suspense sequence as well of him. Gollum kind of tricks him going into this, and then you don't really see the spider that much until you absolutely necessarily need to see it, which is awesome, I feel like, because that creates suspense. He's going through all of the cobwebs, he falls, but then he has the light from the elf that was given to him, and then you're like, oh, he's free, and then he's not, and then he gets wrapped up, which is cool. And then personally, I thought he was dead. So when the orcs come by and it's like, oh no, she's saving him for later and stuff, I'm like, oh, he's not dead. Okay, cool. But again, with these CGI characters and big, like the elephants with the tusks that have the spikes on it, so freaking cool. Like it looks so good as well. Like it's just it's amazing. CGI looks this good in 2000s, and then we get movies like nowadays where it looks like crap, and you can see right through it. And maybe it's our eyes already adjusting to CGI, but in this movie, it's just absolutely amazing, and it doesn't a virtual eyes, you're like, ooh, that's CGI. It's like perfectly blended, I feel like, too, which I think has a lot to do with how good it looks as well.
Yeah.
And I loved the sequence at the end where Frodo drops the ring, but he hesitates to drop the ring, which is no, he doesn't hesitate. Gollum bites his finger off. Um, but when the ring is in the lava, I was watching it and I was like, okay, it's not melting. Why is it not melting? And then everything perspires after that, and then it starts to melt. It's like the the story wasn't fully told until those sequences happened, and then it could melt in the fire, which didn't need to say a word. Totally understood what they were going for there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's great, and I think, like, you know, the Oliphant, what we had mentioned earlier with the that part of the battle is truly spectacular, right? Because you have Rohan that comes and essentially helps save Gondor for the moment,
Mhm.
right? But then as soon as they show up, then the Oliphants show up, right? And at first you're like, oh, they're just elephants, and then they charge, and then they get, like, manhandled at first,
Mhm.
right? And then they start figuring out the weaknesses. It's really, it's like, every time something good happens, a new challenge happens, and
Yeah.
it's building the battle so well.
Mhm.
you know like when all the Nazgul arrive on the drakes, like, is just another aspect of, like, it just gets worse before it gets better.
Mhm.
And this whole movie is that kind of crescendo, and eventually leads up to the combined remnants of Rohan and Gondor marching on the Black Gate.
Mhm.
And that sequence is astonishing as well.
Yeah. It is. Well, and then talking about like circumstances where they something happens and they have to manipulate it in a way. With the ghost people, I'm so sorry, I don't know their names. With the ghost, when Aragon goes to the ghost town or something like that, Forbidden City. What are they called? I forget the name. But when they're on the ships and then the ghost people come out of the ships, it was like, oh man, another challenge has come through. But then Aragon steps out of the boat and it's, oh, he's there, and they look surprised, I look surprised, and then there's another battle that ensues, which is super cool. The ghost people look freaking fantastic as well when they come out, and they're just all just running towards them. Really, really cool. um what else? Oh, I thought who Sauron, the Eye of Sauron, is that what it's called? The big
Sauron,
eye.
yeah.
So that's the white. Uh, that's Gandor's like kind of friend wizard,
No,
correct? No. Okay.
no. So Sauron
There. Okay.
is yeah, that's
Okay.
the evil wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Sauron is the big bad.
The big bad. Okay. I
Yeah.
thought he was going to be a lot more in this movie or in
No.
this trilogy. But I think it's perfect
Hmm.
how he's not always in it. He's just a big eye in the sky. And he, without even knowing, like, I knew he was like the bad guy, but he just had a presence the entire time of when they're going to Mount Doom, and you can just see like the redness in on the top of the tower, and that's him. And he gave that off that vibe that this is the big guy, but we're not going to show you what he is, and which is really really cool. I wanted to talk about actually to the sequence with Pippin and Merry and Gandalf, where Pippin takes the sphere away from Gandor, not Gandor, Gandalf, um, and they get petrified by it because that's what the Eye of Sauron is in that sphere, which is really cool.
Hmm.
Having like a little like
The
UAV.
Palantir, yeah.
Yeah. And how they're petrified afterwards actually kind of scared me because of how they were laying on the ground, just not moving or anything. But it looks so cool in their hands too. When they were
Hmm.
when he was getting information, it was like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. So it's just a lot of spectacles that happen, and it was just so cool to see. I don't know. I don't know. I can go on, I feel like.
No, it's great. Like the little things, like you said, like the way that they're petrified after touching it, because it's it's just so powerful, right? Just makes it so you know much more of a threat. And Sauron is a threat because that's you know that's him. He's
Mm-hmm.
this ever-present entity. He's there to like be the big bad, but then at the same time, like you know he's in a way he is a presence. He is an entity. He is a physical being, but at the same time he's also this lingering evil. Is in the back of your head
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. And so it's just such a great way to do your main villain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
So,
totally agree.
but I mean, continue on, like all the performances still
Oh,
carry over, still impressive.
still great.
This
Still
is
fantastic.
where um, Sean Astin as Sam comes into his own a lot
Oh. Mm-hmm.
in this movie. And you can see why a lot of people think that Sam is the best character out of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like a true friend. Like, I hope that I can be a Sam for you at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's he's truly a fantastic character in this movie. I mean, all of them are. Like, there isn't a bad character.
No, there's not.
Even the steward of Gondor, who's a complete asshole,
Mm-hmm.
is like also like, you understand he's this man given this power and doesn't want to let it go.
Yeah, it's
Very
totally.
relatable
e-
nowadays.
Everybody has a certain characteristic or uniqueness about them, and they don't stray away from it. They don't oh, I want to do this, but no, they're always in character. Like when who's the one, oh gosh, is it Mary or Pippin? I think it's Pippin. Pippin is the one that rides with the girl on the horse into battle, right?
Pippin, yeah.
Yeah, Pippin. Pippin wanting to fight because he feels like he hasn't done anything with Frodo or anything like that, was really cool because he got his time to shine. And then when Mary kills one of the orcs for Gandalf was super cool as well, because it showed that Gandalf, that hobbits can defy his expectations a little bit. Which is, I'm thinking of that person, right? Was it Pippin that saved Gandalf?
Mary.
Mary
No, Pippin is the one.
in battle,
Pippin,
but
no,
Mary.
Pippin's the one in Gondor. Mary's the one in Rohan.
Oh,
So
okay, so it was
Mary
Mary.
rides into battle. Pippin
Yeah,
was the steward's ward.
yeah. So Pippin saving Gandalf was like a eye-opening thing for Gandalf, which was super cool because it's also character growth. You still get character growth in this movie. No one's stale about like, oh, I know what he does and what this does, stuff like that. So I do want to talk about the end because I didn't know that Frodo kind of dies in this movie at the end. Well, he goes to
In a way, yeah.
a different place. They don't really say what happens, but Gandalf dies in the first movie, but then he comes back because he has unfinished business and it wasn't time for him to go. But now his time is done, and then he starts getting on the boat with Bilbo, and then the tears start coming because then Frodo just walks onto the boat, and then everything happens from there. So
Yeah. It's the sailing off into the dying lands, and it's one of the things that makes me tear up with this movie. It's one of those movies. It's honestly the endings of this movie, because it's more than one ending. I know it's a joke, but it earns it. But this movie, the endings do get me, and specifically for me, when Aragorn becomes king, and they have like the ceremony or whatever. And the line when he comes up to the hobbits and he's like, "You bow to no one."
yeah,
That gets me every single time.
It's just so good because it's like they're used to bowing to other people, but now they don't need to bow for a king because they have earned that bow that they get at the end.
Yeah,
So
they've earned that moment. I mean, among
it's
many moments.
great. I didn't know that was coming either. So when they started to bow to them, I'm like, yeah, because they deserve it. They did a lot of, I wouldn't say a majority of it, but they did a lot of the fighting that wasn't actually on the battlefield, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's hard. Like, I said I was gonna have a lot to talk about, and partially because I'm being sick, it's kind of hard to talk right now. But like, it is such a climactic finale, but it also everything feels earned. Nothing feels rushed. It feels like you're given so much to do.
Yeah, in that 3 hour and 20-minute movie, I separated into 2 days, so it wasn't too long for me. But I can see myself watching this in one sitting, and just because of how good this trilogy is in this movie, how everything again is wrapped up in a big bow, and everybody gets their own little 2 cents or share in everything. So, but it didn't feel like 3 hours. Like I watched it right after, right after everything. Like I would come home after work and be like, okay, I gotta finish this movie because of how much I enjoyed the movie. So
Yeah.
I can say too, this is probably one of my favorite trilogies now too. So
hey, you know what? The characters grow, so does Kevin. Okay, Kevin. So we're now here at the end. This is your first time watching it. So what are your final thoughts and what's your score?
Well, final thoughts of this movie is, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's a present all wrapped up in a pretty little bow because everything just falls into place perfectly. There's no plot holes. There's no something's missing from here, especially within a 3 hours and 20-minute movie. There shouldn't be any plot holes. Everything should be kind of told in this story because of how much time is in this movie. But I absolutely loved it. I gave the score 100 out of 100, or the score, this movie at 100 out of 100. I will be watching this trilogy, maybe not too soon because we just watched it, but most definitely see myself watching it in the near future just because of how much I grown to actually love these movies, and I really want to watch The Hobbits now. So
well, there you go. I'd love to have created this desire in you. But yeah, I mean, for me, you can go back to the podcast episode and you've been listening to me this whole time. And if you know me, this is in like my top 5. It is 100 out of 100. It is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It does everything right on every level, and it closes this series off on such an emotional and climactic high note. And it's just perfection. So, but of course, the question now falls to you. What do you think of The Return of the King? We'd love to hear what you have to say down in the description. Not description. I keep saying that. You can't control that. You can control comments, though, and that's where you can put what you think about the movie. So go ahead and leave those comments down in the section down below. We'd love to hear what you have to say, but just remember to be respectful of one another because, we're all people. But next week, we're covering the classic Hollywood drama Sunset Boulevard, which I can't wait to talk about, so make sure you watch it before next week so you're not spoiled. But that's going to be about it. So, of course, we have our weekly live stream every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we also have our show, Movie Club here, which is always live every Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. When I remember to do it, like last week. I didn't remember till halfway through Friday. But it's all good. But thank you again so much for watching. And until next time, make sure to keep those eyes on the screen.